Here we are, right at the heart of the Chancellery at the University of New South Wales. This is not an area that everybody has access to, but today is an exception because of the indoors ECTA and the interaction ministers, Dan Tehan and of course Piyush Goyal ji, have had with Indian students, and I've got some of them from across streams, some of them graduate studies, some of them into postgraduate studies, but different disciplines. So let's start from the far corner. So Tareen, hi. So tell us, how was your interaction? How was the experience speaking to the ministers? You also had a private chit chat later on.
Yeah.
So how was it?
It was actually very pleasant. I really liked how I was about to say something, but I couldn't because the photograph was taken. But then afterwards, he came to me and he tried to reach out to me. And I wanted to tell him how one of the questions that was raised, that how can we students give back to this, how can we add something? And he replied saying that we should know our people and give back to our country. So my question to him was, how can we give back to a country, especially being studying outside Australia, and what opportunities we have in India, because there's so much of competitions, so much of students, doing our streams.
What is your biggest concern being a student who's away from India, studying in Australia, and looking at, you're into your fourth year, right? So next time it will be jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are you looking to come back to India or wanting to work in Australia?
As of now, I would be working in Australia for a bit of years, and then when I'm in mid-career, then I would go back to India and do something for my country as well. The question that I asked Piyush was as I'm a fourth-year student, I'd be looking for jobs, so increase internship opportunities and stuff. So he announced that for people who study STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and who graduate with first-class honors, they would be given a visa of 3 years instead of 2.
Right.
So that's a really good news for us.
My experience has been good so far, but there have been limited opportunities because I came back 2 years ago. This is my third year right now, and because of all the COVID and pandemic and stuff, so there was quite a few restrictions. But going forward, they talked about the ID sector and stuff, what the work visa. So I'm just looking forward. Let's see.
So I think education system back in India is a little different from what we have here. And I mean, I'm really glad I didn't use a calculator till 12th grade.
Till 12th grade, yeah.
And I was able to do all my balance sheet calculations by myself, doing it mentally, little bit of Bacchus and Vedic maths. But yeah, I mean, that's how we excel here. I mean,
that's how
that makes
you're
us
a
stand
notch
out.
above. You're a notch above. So before I get in the two guys, let's also ask Ashna. What are you studying, Ashna?
I'm doing marketing and psychology.
And how was the interaction today with the ministers?
I think it was really nice. They reached out to be very friendly, and additionally, they added this clause of adding another year to students, which is really nice. Mr. Piyush also told us that with this expansion of trade, there are plenty of opportunities coming up in next 6 months. So hopefully that's going to be good for all of us.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah. You're all going to be looking at jobs. But, just talking about dividing your time between two countries, so part in India, part in Australia, is that exciting? Do you think that makes sense? Or would you want to be in one campus, either in India or in Australia?
I think it would be very exciting because after 6 months of coming here, most of us start feeling very homesick, especially because of COVID. We had no literal contact with our parents because they couldn't come here, we couldn't go back home. However, I think for us, the time has gone. We're at the end of our uni.
Ayush, what do you want to do?
Eventually, I want to be an entrepreneur, but I'll be looking for a job after my degree.
Job after your degree.
Experience in the industry.
So you want to stay back in Australia? Are you an Australian resident, or are you from? You've got your folks back in Delhi, in India?
I got my folks back in India.
So you want to come?
I'm going back, and I'll probably register my startup with Startup India.
Startup, so you register your startup with Startup India. And talking about the startup ecosystem, Naveen, you had put a question to the minister.
Absolutely.
And he said, okay, talk to my digital secretary. So what happened there?
So I think there are a lot of startups in Australia which are catering to the mass population. But then the scalability is very hard in Australia. Whereas if that kind of product is being transferred to India, to Indian startups, that's where they can scale their products. So that's something which I raised with Piyush sir, and I think he was kind enough to put me through the digital transformation lead as well. So I think it's a good start for us.
Do you think there's a change right now, at least amongst you and you peers, where you think that you may want to study abroad, but eventually you want to go back to India? Or do you think that's going to change by the time you get to your final year?
I think the way education has been changing in India, most folks that come outside of India, foreign countries like Australia, they come here to get the education and get their work experience, and then almost all of them that I am in touch with, they want to go back to India and do something for our country.
You think this tech ecosystem, the evolution of the tech system, startups, 92 unicorns, all that has also affected this change that, okay, India may be opportunity here?
Yeah, I think in terms of opportunity, there's two different ways to view it. So the reason why students come to Australia is because to understand multicultural vibes. And Australia being a place where you have people from all over the Asia and you have people from the Western countries come in as well, I think that's one of the important factors why people come here. And they want to take that culture and go back to India and probably expand with that. So I'm doing an international business. The reason why I'm doing it is probably to understand the wider network. And once I go back to India, I'll have not only knowledge, but also those tangibles and intangible elements which I can, put forward and make it grow. And globalization has gone in a different rate with Zoom coming in and COVID as well. So now I think like those cross-cultural studies between two countries would probably come in handy for sure.
Come in handy for sure. But why not get Australians to come to India? Why not get them to our campus? Jay wants to say something. I'm bringing Ashna after that.
Yeah. So I think what Piyush ji mentioned that we can do a study with 2 years in Australia and then 2 years with India. I think that will be a really nice way to, market our universities out there and bring them, make people aware about how our university and how our education system is.
I come from Assam, which is very famous for tea leaves.
Yes.
Right now in a course, I've been studying that development. It's now, it's obviously India is a growing country. However, we kind of like tea workers or like, sweater makers and the small businesses. I think what happens is that they don't get much of surplus. Like they export what we create a lot and then we don't profit that much because, we depend on like other countries. But with this trade, I think what I really like is that the tariff was lowered. So both of the countries were benefiting economically.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I also was really, shocked that he was talking more about education instead of like the worth of what the trade is.
Why can't we become the hub for medical tourism? Anybody who wants to come from Australia for any kind of advanced treatment, we've got the world's best doctors, we've got the best premier hospitals. So why not do that?
Indian doctors are one of the best in the world. Like literally everyone goes to India to get cheap and good quality treatment. So yeah, why not? Like let's invite Australians to India for.
So all the best to all of you. Wonderful speaking with all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.